Okay, in section 5.2, we're going to go over lots of probability rules. So we're going to break this up into 3 videos. The first one we're going to talk about give a probability model for a chance process with equally likely outcomes and use it to find the probability of an event. The second video will be about basic probability rules, including the complement rule and the addition rule for mutually exclusive events. In the last video, we'll focus on two-way tables, Venn diagrams, and how to calculate the probabilities involving 2 events, and then apply the general addition rule to calculate a probability. So a probability model is just a description of some chance process that consists of 2 parts. It lists all the possible outcomes and the probability for each outcome. The list of all possible outcomes is called the sample space. For instance, let's think of flipping a coin. The possible outcomes are heads or tails. So these are what we would call the events. And then we have what is the probability of the events. Well, the probability of getting heads is 1 out of the 2, and tails is 1 out of the 2. So that's a pretty simple probability model. This is also called the sample space, heads and tails. Now let's think about rolling dice. If we're rolling 2 dice, then you have the outcome of a 1 and a 1. Or what if the red one has a 2 and the blue one has a 1? That would be different than the red dice being a 1 and the blue dice being a 2. So in this scenario, rolling 2 dice, we have a total of 36 outcomes. And this drawing of all these outcomes is the sample space. You could simply do a 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, so forth, 1, 2, 2, 2, so on and so forth. You can list out as numbers rather than drawing if you wanted to. There's no necessarily correct way as far as an actual image or just labeling of numbers to provide a sample space, as long as it is accurate and obvious as to what is being written. Since the dice are fair, each of these outcomes have a probability of 1 over 36, because there's 36 possible outcomes. So an event is any collection of outcomes from some chance process. So for here, we're going to let A is the event, and we're just going to define what A is. A is getting a sum of 5 when 2 fair dice are rolled. So what you can do is you look back at your sample space, all of your possible events, take out the ones that result in the sum being 5. So a red is a 1 and the blue is a 4, red is a 2 and the blue is a 3, and then you have the reverse of each of those. So there are 4 possible outcomes. So since each outcome has a probability of 1 over 36, the probability of getting a sum of 5, or we could just say A since we defined it above, is 4 over 36, because there's 4 of the 36 outcomes that the sum is 5. So in general, probability, if all outcomes in the sample space are equally likely, then the probability of an event, A, whatever A is defined as, occurs using this formula or this fraction. The probability of A equals the number of outcomes in event A, so those are favorable outcomes, the ones you're looking for, divided by the total number of outcomes in the sample space.